AITAH for telling my daughter she is a spoiled brat and doesn't know what a hard life is. The author of the post is listed in the description. Okay, so background: I 40M am married to a 38F. We met in high school. Wife's parents are terrible. Completely abused her until she moved out at 18. My wife has always tried to be a good mother and break the abusive cycle. We both have good jobs. They want for nothing. We tried not to spoil. They have chores, know their manners, are good kids in school. So my daughter came home one day and asked us to go visit her grandparents' house. We said yeah because we thought she meant my parents, but no, she meant my wife's. My wife immediately said no. Then I backed her and said they will have no part in their lives. She said I was overreacting and that she deserves to meet all her grandparents, and we were being selfish. My wife was diagnosed with PTSD and still sees a therapist due to all the bullshit that she went through. It really annoyed me, and I sent her to her room. I talked to my wife and said that I should tell her what happened, so she understands why we are saying no, that her parents aren't good people. My wife was reluctant but agreed as long as she didn't have to be there, so she wasn't triggered. I went to my daughter's room the next day and I talked to her. I said, look, I understand you are upset, but we are not saying no just to say no. There is a lot you do not understand, but I'm going to explain it so that maybe you understand more. Your mom's parents were abusive. She was humiliated daily, screamed and terrorized since she was 6 years old. Every moment and holiday was ruined by fear, and she almost died on Thanksgiving Day due to her stepfather. That your mom and her sister still suffer from the trauma, and that we will never have a relationship with them. And I hope that she understands now. Something along the lines of that. I told her and thought she understood. Anyway, it was my wife's birthday a week ago, and she doesn't like celebrating honestly, but does it for us. It was actually a really great day. My wife's sister and our 2 other children and my whole family were there celebrating at our house. Until around 7 at night, a knock at my door and my daughter went to answer the door. We figured it was a friend of hers. But when she came right back in the living room, it was my shitty mother-in-law and father-in-law. My wife and her sister both frozen, and they came in like they fucking owned the place, trying to be buddy-buddy. My wife asked them in a timid voice and said, "What are you doing here?" They said, "Our granddaughter invited us." She then tried to speak up more and tell them they needed to go, but they wouldn't. I got up and went between my wife and them and said to leave, they are unwanted here. My daughter really stood up for them and said that she talked to them, and that mom just exaggerated what happened, and that they were good parents. That's when my father-in-law said, "That's right, whatever we did to you ungrateful kids you deserved." That pissed my wife off and she shouted to leave. I went up with my dad and we were going to push him out, but he's 64, 250 lbs at least got us off him, and he pushed my wife into the wall. Her head hit straight back at the wall. She had to get stitches. As soon as that happened, me and my dad and brother forced him outside and said they needed to leave or we would press charges. Her mom kept saying that she was a good mom and my wife was dramatic and she just had bad children. Anyway, my mother took my wife to the hospital because we were still trying to get them to leave the driveway. My mother brought her there and back once they left completely. My wife didn't say anything the rest of the night, besides thanking my mother for the ride, then going to our room. Her sister was really freaked out too and left right after hugging my wife. My children were in the living room and I told my son and my younger daughter to go into their rooms. I needed to speak to their sister. I admit, I lost it. I fucking screamed. Said she was so selfish and I couldn't believe she did that. That she still got into contact after I explained what they did to her mom when she was younger. How I was honestly disgusted with her. She started to cry and say she genuinely thought I was exaggerating, and it would be good for them to get together. She said she got in touch with them on social media, and they seemed great. How they made everything seem not as bad, and she said she didn't think they could be that evil and be related to us. I told her there are evil people everywhere. We have just tried to shield her away, because parents are supposed to protect their kids. I was so upset I genuinely wanted to call her an idiot, but I didn't. But every move my wife did to move past her trauma was demolished by this idiotic decision. My daughter apologized and I said sorry doesn't cut it. Her actions risked her mother's health and everyone's safety. My wife talked to her and said that she no longer trusts her, and how these are the consequences of her actions. For meddling in something that was not her business to meddle with. She has no more phone and no more visiting friends until she earns that trust again. And we can add a punishment we see fit. I've comforted my wife as much as I can, but she's not great. While I think honestly I went too easy on my daughter, I figured I should have other opinions. AITAH? Edit. To clear timeline, my daughter sought them out after I told her what happened during her mom's childhood. I asked, she said she reached out first as well. My daughter is 16 years old. Update. More information. We did make a report and are pressing charges, and will be doing everything we can to get a restraining order. We didn't call the police because we live in a secluded area, and it would take too long for them to get there. We deleted all my daughter's social medias, and I did look at her text between her and the in-laws. She reached out first and kept pursuing them. There were 3 messages before that my in-laws ignored until they eventually responded. Also, that was not the first conversation we had with her about my wife's parents. It was just the first in detail conversation. I told her specific scenarios and events that happened without getting too graphic. But she and my other children always knew that their grandparents were bad. We had multiple talks growing up when we first started to explain why they only have one set of grandparents, unlike most of their friends. But we never said anything in specific details about the actual events, only that their grandparents were bad people, who hurt their mother and aunt a lot. She told me she's doing her best and feels bad for distancing herself from her daughter, but she's just extremely hurt. My wife's going into more therapy sessions than she normally does, and we have set an appointment for my daughter to see one as well, and we will try family therapy to get back to normal. Anyway, did not think this would get so many views. Thanks for all the advice. My wife's going into more therapy sessions than she normally does, and we have set an appointment for my daughter to see one as well, and we will try family therapy to get back to normal. Anyway, did not think this would get so many views. Thanks for all the advice. Okay, next story. WibTA for asking my husband if he's cheating after he secretly bought lingerie that was too small for me. I'm trying to figure out if there's a reasonable explanation behind this because I can't believe he would cheat on me. My husband and I have been married for years and raised 2 beautiful children. He's always been a loving, romantic, affectionate, perfect husband. I never had any doubts about him. I have an athletic body. I'm very healthy, but I am not small. We have joint finances, and I noticed an unusual purchase. My husband had bought expensive lingerie arriving today. I looked into it. On one hand, it's too small for me and built for a petite, skinny woman with no muscles. And I have never worn lingerie. I don't even know if I would be confident in lingerie. And he knows my size. He's bought clothes for me before, including underwear, and has never been wrong. This is clearly the wrong size. Way too small for me. The brand has undercarriage, waist, and hip sizes. My husband is handsome and has women throwing themselves at him. I have no doubt that if he wanted to, he could easily get an affair partner. On the other hand, it could conceivably be an insanely tight fit on me, and he's shipping it to our home address instead of his office. He didn't have anything incriminating on his phone, but we share phones, so it could mean nothing. YBTA for confronting him about the lingerie? I don't want my husband to feel that I don't trust him, but I don't have any other explanations. Edit. I have never worn lingerie in my life. He hasn't bought me lingerie before. It's very frilly and cute, not something that would suit me even if it fit. He is a perfectionist and has never bought me the wrong size in clothes. If it was a mistake in sizing, he would have called weeks ago when it was ordered. The lingerie has actual measurements, and my husband knows my measurements. Edit. I am not going to be home when the package arrives. I don't open packages anyways. It's way too small to fit my husband. I know a few women it would fit. I don't usually go through credit card transactions. If I hadn't looked at them to cancel a subscription, I wouldn't have noticed the pricey credit card charge to a lingerie store. Our children are young. If they stole the credit card, my husband would have immediately noticed and shut it down. It's entirely inappropriate for children. It's way too small to fit my husband. I know a few women it would fit. He is a perfectionist and has never bought me the wrong size in clothes. If it was a mistake in sizing, he would have called weeks ago when it was ordered. The lingerie has actual measurements and my husband knows my measurements. Comments before update. Commenter, give it a few days. If he doesn't surprise you with it, then start questioning him. Commenter, if you open your present and it's a Joni Mitchell CD, then he's definitely cheating. Commenter, do not confront him. Best case scenario. He bought you lingerie and made an honest mistake about the size. It happens. Worst case scenario. He is cheating on you. If you confront him, you alert him to the fact that you suspect him, and he will be more careful to conceal himself. And you won't have the physical evidence you might need later for a divorce case. Watch and see what he is up to. Look for other classic signs of cheating. If he turns out to be in the clear, don't tell him that you thought he was cheating either. Update. 2 days later, the lingerie arrived this morning. I wasn't home. I do errands in morning on weekends. I have a routine. I read a lot of comments, although I couldn't read all of them. I got a lot of creepy DMs, but a few supportive ones. I still emphatically believe in my heart that my husband wouldn't cheat on me. So I gathered up my courage and came home earlier than I usually do. I tried to talk to my husband, but he told me to go get ready for dinner. On the nightstand was a box with the lingerie. He gives me gifts like that sometimes on the nightstand or on the bed. I can't explain how much relief I felt. It was honestly so beautiful and delicate with lace and straps and a floral design. But then I tried it on, and it was way too small and incredibly tight. I'm toned and in great shape, especially for my age, but it just made me feel lumpy and ugly. I'm insecure about my looks and age. I'm not as beautiful as I once was. My husband knocked a few minutes later as I was crying and asked if I needed help putting it on. I told him no, but he still came in, and I felt uglier and an emotional mess. He looked excited and told me I looked beautiful. I told him it was too small, and he asked me where and how it felt, and I eventually broke down and told him that it gave me rolls and extra lumps and how I saw the transaction, and I was afraid he didn't want me anymore because the lingerie was too small and frilly for me, and we hadn't been intimate in weeks, and a bunch of other emotional stuff. He coaxed me into calming down and being intimate, and getting all of that stuff off my chest helped me calm down. And then we talked some more. I apologized for ever thinking he could betray me, and my husband forgave me. He apologized for being distant and making me needy. I told him I couldn't believe that I freaked out over him making a mistake in sizing for the first time. He said he didn't make a mistake. He bought it too small on purpose because he liked the idea of me uncomfortable and squirming in too small lingerie. It made sense. The top and bottom wasn't the absolute smallest size, but just large enough that I could squeeze in and be incredibly uncomfortable. Some of the accessories were the right size for me. He said he thought I would be uncomfortable but didn't think I would cry or be desperate for his affection, and he liked it a lot and wants to continue exploring this. I told him we had to do it with cheaper lingerie. It's odd, but whatever floats his boat. I'm glad he was honest about what he likes because he could have just went along with my assumption that he made a mistake in sizing and didn't double check. I don't think we're going to make it to dinner. We're probably going to have takeout, which the kids love. Edit. There was no dinner reservation planned, it was just a ruse. And for other stuff, I didn't want too much information about my kids out there, but I still got a few creepy DMs. So I definitely want to warn people about that. Edit. My husband asked if I wanted to accompany him for a business trip in a couple months. He doesn't take trips often. I work from home, but I didn't know what I would do there alone in a hotel room. I told him that, and he said that he wanted my company and joked that he couldn't leave me alone since I got really upset after not being intimate with him. Honestly, he'd had to book the tickets, and it would cost us our own money and a sitter, but my husband can handle that stuff. We're eating pizza, and he's asking why I've been glued to my phone for the past 2 days. Comments. Commenter. I'm glad it was for you. His kink is a little, I'm not sure the word, but maybe next time he needs to talk to you first before involving you in a kink he wants to try. It's the right and polite thing to do. But other than that, I'm glad it was a happy ending for you both. Commenter. Wait, what? He bought it too small on purpose because he liked the idea of you being uncomfortable getting into the lingerie, and he wants to continue exploring this. That made sense. Did I stumble into a terrible erotica sub? That's awful. What's going on? I'm so confused. Commenter. Same reaction. It makes sense? How? How does this make sense? I guess it's better than cheating, I think. UAP makes a lot of now-deleted comments on the same theme. It's physical. He never ever mentioned liking me actually hurt or upset about my insecurities. He comforted me and calmed me down, and he only ever said he liked the physical stuff. I know it's weird and I would never be into it, but I trust my husband. My husband loves me. He would never emotionally hurt me. He would never try to hurt my feelings on purpose. He's not that kind of person. He's never been that kind of person. He calmed me down and was listening to all my frustrations and insecurities. I know a lot of them sound dumb, and they are. I know most people don't think that almost 3 weeks without intimacy isn't a lot, but we used to be intimate almost every day. I was crying about that, and he asked if I wanted to be intimate. I said yes, and I wanted to be intimate. He likes the physical parts of it, I think. He didn't want to hurt me or hit my insecurities. He didn't think I would cry or do any of that. He thought I would just be physically uncomfortable in the lingerie because it was tight and I wasn't used to it. And he comforted me the entire time and told me that he liked how I physically clung on to him and physically cried, not the actual emotional stuff. He wouldn't want to hurt me, actually. People are saying a lot of things in this post. More people are saying he's cheating than in my original thread where most people isn't. A lot of people think he's being mean, which he isn't. He's a loving husband and he cares about me. And a lot are saying it's fine and they're happy for me. And that is the real thing. My husband does love me, and I have to stop responding to everyone and being glued on my phone because it's not healthy and I'm getting more anxious here. How do you like these stories? Write your opinion in the comments. Let's get 1,000 subscribers on this channel. Love you.